God of our fathers, in whom we trust, and by whose guidance and grace this nation was born.
I tua tu a kahua rarua rātua mai, mamai mō pono, nā tua aroha, e whanau, e tu atua ro.
Bless these councillors of the Hutt and give all things needed for their faithful discharge of their responsibilities.
Whakapainga mai mātou ko nā mai tau whakatiki, ko mai ki mātou nā mea pai. Ki nā arataki ai tau mātou mahi, nā mahi hei hapi, uki ai tia hapuri.
Give to each good health and good judgment for the decisions to be made, wisdom beyond our own, and a clear understanding so that we may promote thy glory and welfare of all in this city.
Ho mai te kine, te tina, nā mātou, tia orongapai, mā te whakaro pai hoki. Kia whakatau ai te kia kuna, nā mate tu taka ia kore te mātara tanga, kia ki tu a korea me tō ranga o te korea roto ia whakatiki.
Through Jesus Christ our Lord, Amen.
Ko e hu karai tō mai tū kiri, Amen.
Thank you. Okay, before we begin, we have no apologies. If there's any changes of declaration, please let governance know. And just since the last council meeting, we had at Whirinaki, Whare Taonga, we had the Capital Fibre Festival, again, another very successful event. We had on the 23rd of May, we had the Hutt Valley Sports Awards at Walton Ash Stadium. And on the 24th of May, we had the opening of the Medieval 2 Metal opening exhibition. So if anyone hasn't been to see it, have a look. It's great, the guitar. And on the 7th of June, I attended the massive Thanksgiving for the reopening of the Cathedral Metropolitan Sacred Heart in Wellington. And we also, 15th of June, congratulate the Hutt Valley Netball, who marked 90 years of netball in the Hutt Valley. And finally, can I say that we, again, we spoke about it last meeting, but just last week, but last week we attended our former Mayor Rex Kirton's funeral. Rex had passed away, and our thoughts and prayers with his family. Rex was selected here as a councillor in 1994, and then 74, and then was elected mayor in 1977 through to 2001. At that time, he was New Zealand's youngest mayor, and when he retired, when he chose not to stand for election in 2001, he was then New Zealand's longest-serving mayor. So he'd done a lot over those years. As I said, a lot had changed in Upper Hutt in the years that he had presided over the council. So, as I said, with that, I'd like to stand and we go a minute of silence for Rex, our former mayor. Thank you. We now move to public forum, and we do have one member of the public who wishes to speak this afternoon, and he's appearing on Zoom.
Hello.
Afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, very clearly, and welcome to begin.
Okay.
Thank you.
So kia ora to you all. Thank you for the opportunity to chat. Firstly, as I've said in my information to the council, I wanted to talk to items 7 and 8. I didn't include item 10, but I think 8 and 10 combine themselves together. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Ashley Gibson. I met with you guys in this forum sometime last year and raised a couple of concerns with you regarding a property at number 72 Montgomery Crescent. In the last few days, I've done some looking around at some of your documentation, in particular looking at these notes for tonight's event, and I want to raise a couple of issues around item 7. In particular, the quarterly legislative compliance report. When I look at this report, I feel it's very watered down in reality to the non-conformance functions of your legislative requirements. If we look at some of the items in here, the Privacy Commissioner investigations, pretty short on function of the number of things that are happening at the Upper Hutt City Council. The Ombudsman's investigations seems very light, given the number of matters the Ombudsman has been dealing with the Upper Hutt City Council. The Building Act 2004, there's only 4 items in here. There's nothing in here that discloses the ongoing non-conformance functions around the building certificates, the code of compliance certificates, false PS4s provided for obtaining certificates, the current state of your building warrant of fitness system that is non-functional at best, though it may obtain some pieces of paper, most of them are actually incorrect. There's nothing in here that specifies the issues that you're having around compliance schedules and the fact that buildings in your district some of them don't have compliance schedules when they're supposed to. They don't break down any of the notices to fix. There's no indication here that there's any issues at all, which to me is complexing, really, given the status of the address at number 72 Montgomery Crescent, which continues to remain in a state of non-compliance. There are at least 15 significant issues with that site that need to be addressed, and your department is responsible for auditing and ensuring that actually takes place. This report that is part of your guys' documentation suggests that you guys are operating at a very high level, which I can assure you is completely false. And it is misleading the public and yourselves to what's actually going on in this situation. When I raised this issue with you guys last year, we also brought up the farriers side. They have significant non-compliance requirements still happening there, and you guys are not addressing it. Backfilling the situation with a consent doesn't make the issues go away. Hiding it under paperwork that is borderline fraudulent also doesn't assist the situation. Going further down through the list of these items on this so-called non-compliance or compliance aspect to your legislative functions, looking at your local government official information would suggest that you're pretty good at returning official information requests. I can assure you that is not correct as well. I recently had a conversation with your legal counsel, Guy Smith, regarding a number of official information requests that have not been replied to, weren't replied to with the appropriate amount of information missed out, then misguided information provided to go and look somewhere else. In that discussion with him, he basically assured me, or provided to me a statement that my discussion points that I was raising with him were bullshit. Those were his exact words from your legal counsel. He then instructed that if I wanted to look into the matter of whether or not a building that has its specified systems changed needed a building consent, he was unable to provide that answer to me, even though the email was sent to Helen herself. And then he suggested that I talk to MB about it because their building warrant of fitness is managed by them. Well, I say BS to that because it's your guys' responsibility to ensure that all buildings in your district are managed with their building warrant of fitness correctly. And I can assure you, the 7 that I checked in the last 6 months all fail to provide that information correctly. And I know the issue is far wider and more concerning than that. Putting that aside, I would go down to the long-standing non-compliance issues reported over the last 12 months. There are significant items that should be on this list that aren't there. And one of those is a long-standing issue around air quality issue around the NCI building in Montgomery Crescent, right next door to number 72 Montgomery Crescent, Wedgelock Equipment Building. That issue has been going on for a long time and is around a resource consent that they applied for to discharge more contaminant into the air. Now, when I look into the documentation behind that, you start to see a very similar relationship about what's going on here. And I think the relationship sits with Mr. Guppy himself. With that said, I'd like to raise that I think Mr. Guppy may have a conflict of interest, or may have had that conflict of interest for some time now, potentially 15 to 20 years. He has a strong relationship with the owners and the occupants at 72 Montgomery Crescent. He has known them for some time. He's also...
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Can you sum up now? The time is up.
All right, so we're going to cut this short. Okay, I would like to ask the councillors to provide to put in place an audit, a review, an investigation into the full issues that are going on here, because this washed down data that you're putting in front of everybody here, which is going to go into your so-called audit that's currently going on at the moment, is going to understate the real issues that are underlying your legal obligations.
Okay, well, you need to stop now. Time's up. We'll get any questions from the councillors. Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ashley, what is your relationship with 72 Montgomery Cres? I'm just curious to what's alerted you to this situation, alleged situation. Were you a tenant there or a worker?
I have a long-standing relationship with this address, and I believe that the council is very aware of what that relationship is, and the fact that you're asking me
I'd like to know, Ashley.
You would like to know.
Yeah, please.
So I am of the understanding that you already know the answer to the question. So I worked at that.
I'm asking it.
Okay.
Okay, if you're not going to answer it.
The councillors asked the question and you're not prepared to answer.
Okay, so I'll give you the answer to the question.
Thank you.
Are you happy? Okay.
Yes, please.
So recently, the public health raised a surveillance and investigation poisoning and hazardous substance injury process underway, which was to this site and the relationship around it. And the council submitted information through whatever the means might have been to help shut that matter down. So this worksite has produced... Hang on. This worksite has produced large volumes of contaminant for a long period of time that has caused health issues, and to the fact that I found out earlier this year may have contributed to some people's lives being lost. And that is what I said, death.
Okay,
right?
Any other questions? Councillor Swales.
Ashley, you still didn't quite answer the question that my colleague Councillor Bentley wanted, but my question is, with regard to air pollutants and things like that, that actually doesn't come under the purview of Upper Hutt City Council. That's actually a Greater Wellington Regional Council issue. So that issue should go to them. It would be nice if, you're making an assumption, Ashley, that we...
There's no assumption.
Well, you are, because a number of us around the table actually are unaware of a lot of the stuff that you've stated here this evening, and you're not really giving us a lot of context as to your relationship. Sorry.
I only have a short amount of time, so I'm trying to give you a overview of the situation, as I did last year.
Councillor Carson.
Actually, this paper usually goes to the Risk and Insurance Committee, but that committee has been deferred for various reasons, so it's gone to this council meeting. If you have allegations of whatever allegations you have on any property or whatever, I invite you to put that in writing, specifically, no generalisations, specific allegations, substantiated by fact, not assumption, and write that to the CEO, and that will be put in front of the Risk and Assurance Committee for examination.
Okay,
We will not deal. Can you let me finish?
To the CEO.
Can you let me finish?
Councillor Carson.
I am talking, not you.
Hang on, councillor Carson, just a moment. Just wait a moment and councillor Carson will finish.
I am the chair of the Risk and Assurance Committee. You put your allegations in writing with specific facts, not generalisations or assumptions, and that will be addressed. So this is not an appropriate way to do these sorts of things. You put it in writing and it'll be dealt with.
Can I respond, please?
Briefly.
May I respond, please?
Yes, briefly.
Okay. I put this to the risk assessment last year, and it put it in front of Peter Kelly, the CEO then, and I was disregarded.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. We now go to item 4, which is the report from the Te Aka of the Kupenga Maidstone Park Trust Statement, Strategic Intent, 2024-27. You'll remember that council requested at the 8th of May meeting a statement can be resubmitted along with including the forecast financial statements. Any comments? Yeah. Any other comments? Moved by councillor Carton, seconded by councillor Bentley. Is there any discussion? And happy to move. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no, that's been carried.
And your worship, I just wish to thank the Park Trust board committee to put the full financials in front of the council. Thank you.
Pass it on to the trust. Thanks. And we now go to item 5, which is a report of the Whirinaki Whare Taonga Statement of Intent 2024 and 27. Again, we request extra information on the 8th of May meeting. Okay, does anyone want to speak to this or no? Any comments?
Your Worship,
Yes, councillor.
something that needed to be said in the public meeting where we first asked them to come back with a 3-year statement of intent and financials was that we do appreciate all of the work that is done by the trustees, the trust and the staff at Whirinaki Whare Taonga, that they are amazing with what they achieve with the budget that they have. And I look forward to the ongoing work that they do. So I'd just like to mention that.
Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I echo Deputy Mayor's comments. In your financials, you're forecasting a deficit. That's with a 3% increase included. Have you forecasted what that percentage increase would need to be to break even?
Can you wish what pass over to Whirinaki?
Brilliant, Chair. How do I answer that? I would say that we work well in advance with our exhibition and event program, and that's why the 25-26 like a hopeful 3%. But the year after that, we're not.
Any other comments? Councillor Wheeler.
I think we should, just a clarification, it's on page 68, just in the terms of lease.
And we're on the statement of intent.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, so next one.
Next one.
Yeah.
Next one, sorry,
We're on the statement of intent.
not too quick.
No other comments? I'm happy. Moved by councillor Carson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Swales. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no, carried. We now go to item 6, councillor Wheeler, which is the Whirinaki and deed of lease and management agreement. And remember, this is really modernising it, tidying it up. Councillor Wheeler.
Just on.
What page now?
I could have done that.
5.1.5, just puts the, it's more of a clarification on the 21,500 to employ a properly qualified person to manage the maintenance. So that 21,500, is that affixed to the 3 years, the 3 years it's in, or is that changed per year?
Through you, Your Worship, it is a fixed term And Whirinaki would argue that it hasn't changed for quite some time and it potentially needs to change. But we have retained it due to the current financial situation at that 21,500.
Councillor Heatley.
Worship, through you to the Church of Whirinaki. What is that? What is the real cost of the maintenance then? Is 21,500 would be insufficient?
That fund basically supports the employment of the team that was added from the council. It was originally, I believe, calculated from that employees plus original salary, which was many.
So what would that figure now, should be now in your mind, ballpark?
Through the chair, we did put a figure forward and I was getting up here about 26, 27. Yeah.
Any further comments? Councillor Clark.
Your worship, just down here, page 9, insurance. Clause 13.1, where it says that the council shall, at its cost, requires a full insurance requires a full replacement and reinstatement basis. So who pays for the cost of the valuation? Well, that means getting a valuer to value the replacement cost for the building and its contents, etc. So who does that and who pays for it?
Through you, Worship, I would need to get a little bit of information that would come from Kate, but I understand that as council building, it is council's responsibility and that we pay for that because it is our building. But I can certainly check all this. Chief Executive may know.
Thank you.
Through your worship, my understanding is that we get that valuation done. Yes.
Okay, any further comments? I'm happy to move the recommendations that we receive a note and approve the Whirinaki Whare Taonga deed of lease. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Swales. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
The contrary no, it's been carried. We now go to item 7, which is the quarterly legislative compliance report. And does General Counsel want any comments? No. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Councillor Swales.
Your worship, I do have a couple of questions here, and it's I think that we need a little bit more reporting when it comes to some of these things, because when we're out of compliance with regard to some of our resource consents and we go past the 20 days, there is a financial cost there that is paid back to the person or the applicant, and it would be nice to know to have a running cost of some of those things. And it's really just from a governance point of view, just letting us know, some of the implications of some of the things when we don't meet the criteria or the legislative criteria. So that's around page 74 under the Building Act, where we look at where we've met and where we haven't met. So those were just some of the things that I'd like to have answered. Yep.
Councillor Wheeler.
A couple of questions, Your Worship. Just on page 77 on J4, the Psychoactive Substance Act, I thought we rescinded that. That was, that's one of the things we did that.
I think we can.
Yeah,
We can check on that.
okay, so that was one of the other one is on Reserves Act on I2, where it says our community buildings which is not permitted on reserved land. Question is how do you appease that? How do you fix that up if it's not permitted? How do you fix that up?
I don't know. Does he?
I'm happy to speak to the extent that I understand it. I mean, it's kind of the asset area where they look after property, and I mean the fix will be on a case to case basis. All we've done so far is the issue's been reported, So, you know, at this stage, we're still looking into the extent of that issue and.
So if it's not permitted, it's not permitted.
That's right, it's unlawful, yeah.
And can't.
I mean, there might be, I mean, I'm speculating, right, but there might be a number of potential fixes, including revoking reserve designation, making it non-exclusive use. I mean, it will depend on what the circumstances are.
Your worship, we have looked at or people have raised issues about Savage Park and what could be done on there and the potential and its designation. And this is the first I've heard that a kindergarten that has been there since the, well, year dot. And there's actually another building on Savage Park that's not mentioned, but surely must be in the same category. And the Timberley Community House, again, has been there for many, many years. And I'm just flabbergasted to discover that we've got some problem that has obviously not been fixed under previous staff or previous officers. I've got a couple of other points too, Your Worship. The prevention of nuisance from fires and smoke bylaw. You know, at one point I raised an issue about a property which had been left derelict and gorse had been allowed, and the local residents were concerned about the potential fire there, and supposedly there was nothing we could do. And now I see that there's a prevention of nuisance from fires and smoke bylaw, which seemingly, yeah, they're going to expire. And I'm just wondering why that particular bylaw couldn't be used to address that particular issue. And paragraph D, resource management. What's the implication of the fact that these certificates have not been updated? Paragraphs 1 and 2. Thanks, Your Worship.
It says here the,
Finley has
yeah,
been approached, Your Worship.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other, I mean, the issue that you raised, you're covered with the lease buildings, etc. I mean, that's what we'll be looking at to see how we rectify it.
I just want to follow on from what Councillor Newell was alluding to around the certificates, and I accept what Buttle Finley has said, that there is no issue for us as a council, but I'd like to take it back to when do we expect to get the manual of delegations before us again? I know that it came to a risk and assurance committee meeting and we asked for it to be re-looked at with some track changes. So I'd just like to just put it on the table as to when do we expect to have that come back to us. That would be really good to have a bit of a timeline or time frame. And then when I go to under the so I'm still on page 74. When I come to item 2, where plan change 49 is not compliant in terms of time frame of 2 years, did we not go to the minister to ask for an extension of that? I know that Helen isn't here, but you know, it is concerning that it is a live issue on the table at the moment, plan change 49 variation 1. And we have been told that, you know, it's with the commissioners, and it would be nice to know when it comes back, because it's very much high profile out there in the community as to where it is. The other one that concerns me underneath that, and I didn't want to bang, 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 but I will, is the Wellington Water one around the steps of enforcement, which is under paragraph 3. That's a concern for me, because this has been raising its head for a number of issues. It's come to the Hutt Valley Shared Services about the smell. It's obviously escalated up to where there is no tolerance anymore from Greater Wellington Regional Council. And whilst officers from Hutt City Council, Upper Hutt and GW have had a conversation, there's going to be a point where the money is going to hit the road and we're going to be penalised and have to pay the fine. Now, does that come out of the budget that we've already got with Wellington Water? Or is that an extra pot of money that we have to find as a council? I just think from us understanding the finances and the implications of this that has been going on and on and on for quite some time, that it makes me think actually this plant needs to be made redundant and we need to look at investing those millions of dollars and looking into a new plant, because these problems are starting to become more frequent and it's costing us a lot of money in fines and things like that. So I just have an issue with that, and I'd just like some answers with the questions that I put on the table around the delegation. How much is this going to cost? When do you think we're going to see the end of this Wellington Water and this smell issue? Because it is a repeating thing that goes on and on.
Well, at the last Hutt Valley Services meeting, it was, I'm sure that was taking, going to be another 6 months to 8 months before it's, that's what working through. That was it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was about 6 to 9 months, wasn't it, before they could.
Yeah, I mean, just through you, there's work, a lot of work going on at the moment on it. But it's going to take time to come up with that. So, and it is largely driven, with Hutt City being the line share owner of the asset. It's that awkward thing that takes sort of time with it, but we are acutely aware of it. We are in discussions with Wellington Water and Hutt City Council and Greater Wellington as the regulator around this. In terms of the fines, yes, it's something. I mean, relative to the cost of the upgrade of the plant, it's relatively minor. But it is Greater Wellington's regulator flexing its muscle in that department.
And Councillor Wheeler and then Councillor Oliver.
Just on that, what I find bizarre, one of the board is that they don't know where the smell's coming from. And they're the experts. I find that absolutely bizarre. It's been going on for quite a while now. Doesn't pass us with that. No.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to know what the non-compliance is actually costing. So there's a fine for non-compliance at Wellington Water. What is the cost that Upper Hutt has to cover?
Through your worship, that's a good question. I believe we've reported on it either before here or through the joint services. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm saying it's about $1,500 in that order. And if it's broken, the next, to answer your question, how much of that do we pay? I'm not sure if we're being charged $1,500 or thereabouts, and Hutt City being charged that. General counsel is not in the so we're both receiving the same.
Let's go here.
So they're also working closely with the residents. That's right. Yeah, they're working closely with the residents in the area too, making sure that they're informed about what's going on. And it seemed to be a much better relationship than it had been. I can talk to the chair there than was 6 months ago.
They've, the committee has actually put quite a bit of pressure on the power that be down there to start up a good communication network, which they have done. We've had a lady crying, telling us how bad the smell was affecting her life, valuable properties. So they've actually done a pretty good job of starting to get a communication network going. I've joined that and I've seen 3 or 4 of the communications come out now. In that regard, it doesn't stop it being non-compliant. It does just stop the people being really upset about the non-compliance. And they know where the data comes from. They fixed it, and it wasn't enough to stop extra leave or treatment, which is in our budgets and our other papers that we're getting. Is the main issue.
Okay. Councillor Deputy Swales.
I'm sorry, but I don't think that that's sufficient, and it doesn't, I know, but putting pressure on them, okay. But I mean, it's got to the stage where this just goes on and on and on and on, and we keep putting pressure on Viola or Wellington Water, but without KPIs or penalties on them. And maybe we need to look at our statement of intent or our contract with them, Because at the end of the day, it's us paying, you know, it comes out of our pocket, whether we pay a third or 2/3. But this is, you know, Greater Wellington are at the end of their tether and they're taking us to court, right? So they've just had enough. The residents have had enough. I get those. And I just think that we should be doing more on Wellington Water to actually resolve this issue. Anyway, I've had enough to say about that, but now I want to go to page 74, 76, if that's okay. So we've got a report here talking about a lot of bylaws that are out of date and that, but I mean, what are we doing about it? In number 5, it says officers are undertaking a bylaw review to ensure other bylaws have had correct reviews and continue to be valid. But those that are out of date, are we just leaving them as out of date and not doing any work? It's just telling us that these are out of date, but it doesn't tell us what we're doing with them. So I just think that we're a little bit short on information where you give us information that says we're out of date, but you don't tell us what the remedy is. Is it because you want us to say we want you to review these and that we want to keep them? I'm just a little bit unsure.
Through you, Your Worship, the reality is that we are not fully resourced to be able to deal with all of these issues as they come up. And that is actually going to get worse going forward. The reality is also that we will have to prioritise which of these things we deal with. And some of these bylaws, that prioritisation process will have to take into account how often these bylaws are utilised. And in fact, it's almost a legal issue, but what are the consequences of a bylaw being out of date? Does that mean we cannot use those powers either partially or fully? There's a whole raft of issues that we'll need to go into how we think about prioritising this going forward. But bylaws being out of date is really, it's the tip of the same iceberg in terms of inappropriate way we've leased, for example, reserves properties. They're all symptoms of the same thing. That is an organisation that has not necessarily had the right resources in the right place at the right time to be able to provide the best advice. And what we're doing in this report is identifying those things. The next step will be coming back to you and telling you how we propose to resolve those issues.
Councillor,
Your Worship, on that matter, I think we did used to have a legislative committee, and I'm just wondering, Chief Executive, if this might be the right time for us to be stepping up and attempting to assist with putting some priority and helping the staff with some priority around what we think needs to be, you know, top of the list. Not suggesting that we actually do it, but some help for the staff, especially in light of what we know is coming down the pipeline. Would you like to make a recommendation?
well, I mean, whether it's a legislation committee or not, that same information would come back to that committee. But we'd need to, I mean, the first step would be that the staff would work through and saying how often it's used, and so that would help us give some priority, but we need to see where, you know, how often it's used, et cetera, et cetera. That would come back to us. And then
I suppose what I was trying to do was to provide some kind of opportunity, knowing that what the Chief Executive has just talked to us about, the lack of resourcing. Just is there some way we could assist with that? That's all I'm suggesting, not getting into the operations, but at least at some level, helping to assess a priority list.
Councillor Bentley and then Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. I think Councillor Neal has the best intentions, but I don't think I'm not a lawyer and I can't assess what's going to be the lowest legal risk or highest legal risk. So I don't think it would be that much help. Just coming back to Councillor Swale's question earlier about the manual derogations, I don't think we've got a response on that. We could, please.
Yes.
Yep, that one is in my remit to respond to. So at the last meeting that was brought and rejected, you guys asked for it to be brought back at the next Risk and Assurance Committee meeting, and resourcing permitting that's still in August, I think that is.
Councillor Carson.
Well, I'd just like to have placed on record for the meeting minutes that the CEO will in due course come back to the Risk and Assurance Committee with a program of how non-compliance of bylaws is going to be acted upon in terms of its priority order, resources, etc. So I'd just like that recorded in the meeting minutes. So whether it comes to the next Risk and Assurance Committee or the one after, depending on what the workload is.
Any further comments? Okay, we do have before us then the councillor sees and notes the report. Moved by councillor Holmes, seconded by councillor Kerry. All those in favour?
Your worship, could we just add to the recommendation that we would like to have the CEO come back to us with a program of work or
It's
understanding?
noted, it'll be in the minutes.
Okay, then, yep. That's it.
Again, moved by councillor Holden, seconded by councillor Kerry. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no, and carried. We now go to item 8, which is confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting that was held on the 8th of May. Happy to move. We have a second, councillor Ultra. Any items to be discussed? Then I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no, it's been carried. We now go to item 9, which is the committee meeting minutes and adoption of the Creative Communities, which was held on the 16th of May. I'm happy to move that. And we have either
Just the minutes.
it's a minutes, yep.
Conflict of interest, abstain because of Kimberley community.
And do that. We have councillor Ultra and Holdness on that.
Yes.
Seconded, councillor Ultra. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. It's been carried. We're making note of. And then we go to item 10, which is the approval of the Hutt Valley Services Committee meeting, which was held on the 3rd of May. It's moved by councillor Griffiths. Seconded, I'm happy to second it. Any items to be discussed? All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. And carried. We now go to item 11, which we have the schedule of documents sealed. Oh, we do. Sorry, there was a recommendation. I'll just go back to item 10. There was a recommendation from the Hutt Valley Services Committee meeting. And we moved to council adopts the recommendation of Hutt Valley Services, moved by councillor Griffiths. Happy to second it. I second it by councillor Newell.
What's the recommendation?
Have a look. It's
It's not the other one. Hutt Valley Services.
Akatara Cemetery, they can request the officer walk back.
Just receiving reports.
All right. So moved by councillor Griffiths, seconded by councillor Newell. All those in favour say aye. Carried. And we now move to the item 12, which is the schedule of documents sealed. Any comments? Councillor Wheeler.
Just one question, just on the page 128. The grading of Whiteman's Valley Recreation Reserve. Is that piece of land that we talked about? Could be up for sale?
Yep.
That the one?
That's a bit of land with it over there.
So how does that work out if someone's leased it? So if you lease it, what's the relationship there? How's it work?
Well, if they've got a lease, we'll have to adhere to the lease agreement.
So
It's
store.
leased like that. How long is it leased for?
5 years.
5 years,
Your
yes.
worship, it's leased what's
Subject
limited.
to.
So, you would still put it on the market, but it's got a lease agreement that's in place.
So we move that council receives a schedule of documents sealed and confirm the actions and approve affixing the common seal to all relevant documents in connection with the decisions. Moved by councillor Griffiths, seconded by councillor Holders. All those in favour say aye.
No.
No, it's been carried. Now move to public excluded session. And we have, happy to move, Deputy Mayor Swales, seconded by councillor Wheeler. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No, it's been carried.